Texas and Louisiana are determined to run women and physicians out of their states. This woman, we've seen this woman before. She is a forced birther doctor, and she is being used for her supposed expertise in writing forced birther legislation. This woman has been appointed to the Maternal Mortality Committee. Now, the maternal mortality in these forced birther states is abysmal. So, bringing a forced birther into the fold is obviously going to be detrimental to women. And we're also going to be talking about what's going on in Louisiana, where the governor just signed a bill into law that makes smomorphin pills a controlled substance. So basically, they are still trying to come down and criminalize smomorphin in Louisiana, and I'm sure that other forced birther states are going to take heed and do pretty much the same. But before we talk about Louisiana, let's talk about that doctor. So this is Dr. Ingrid Scott. She is an OBGYN forced birther in Texas. One of the U.S.'s leading anti-smomorphin activists has been appointed to a Texas Health Committee tasked with reviewing maternal deaths. The move worries reproductive justice advocates who say the state's smomorphin ban, among the strictest in the U.S., has placed pregnant women's lives in jeopardy. The appointment could undermine the committee's ability to accurately examine the impact of the law on deaths during and in the immediate aftermath of pregnancy. They want to suppress the numbers because they don't want people to see how bad it is to get pregnant in the state of Texas and these other forced birther states. This appointment speaks volumes about how seriously certain state leaders are taking the issue of maternal mortality, says Camion Connor, executive director of the Texas Equal Access Fund and Smomorphin Assistance Group that advocates for reproductive health equity. It is another sign that the state is more interested in funding their anti-smomorphin agenda than protecting the lives of pregnant women in Texas. Dr. Ingrid Scott, a San Antonio-based OBGYN, has long been vocal about her views on smomorphin. Scott serves as a vice president and director of medical affairs for the National Anti-Smomorphin Research Group, Charlotte Lozier Institute, and is a member of the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. And she was a plaintiff in the U.S. Supreme Court lawsuit seeking to revoke the FDA's approval of the smomorphin drug mifepristone, which she argues is dangerous despite years of evidence showing the drug is safe. She has authored a number of research papers that were ultimately retracted for misleading errors. Scott, who has called the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe a victory in the battle, but not the end of the war, and has argued in favor of forcing rape and incest victims as young as 9 or 10 to carry pregnancies to term. If she's developed enough to be menstruating and become pregnant and reach SE-actual maturity, she can safely give birth to a baby. This is a woman that is on the maternal mortality committee. Y'all know that this is bad. Pregnancy at such a young age is shown to carry significant health risks, including preeclampsia and infections. In Texas, Scott has repeatedly testified at the legislature and in court in support of state bans, the most recent in the hearing opposing smomorphin care for Kate Cox, a Dallas woman who petitioned a judge for emergency access after receiving a lethal fetal diagnosis. This Scott lady, y'all, this is like having a fox be the overseer and of like the hen house. This is very, very bad. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists questioned Scott's appointment, saying it is crucial that maternal review committee members be informed by data, not ideology. Her bias is relevant because smomorphin, they know, is inherently tied to maternal health. We believe that all members of the MMRC should be unbiased, free of conflicts of interest, and focused on the appropriate standards of care when evaluating maternal mortality and morbidity in Texas, which were already at unacceptably high levels even before Texas passed its extra restrictive bans. Bias against abortion has already led to compromised analysis and ultimately dangerously flawed data. Towards the bottom of this screenshot, The committee's latest report showed that 90% of maternal deaths in the state were probably preventable, and it is now reviewing the pregnancy related deaths from 2020 and plans to examine the impact of states' abortion laws on maternal health in the coming years. Nakinya Wilson, who nearly lost her life giving birth in Texas, sat on the committee as an outspoken community advocate pushing for the release of data when the state health commissioner delayed publication of the report in 2022. As a voice of voice for people of color, Wilson championed the stories of Black women who are disproportionately affected by maternal mortality rates both nationally and in Texas. After legislation in 2023 eliminated her community advocate role, Wilson applied to a different role on the committee but did not get the job because she would actually advocate for pregnant women. While Scott's role is meant for rural committee members, she has spent her career working in San Antonio, a major Texas city. Scott, who is one of 7 new appointees, will begin her 6-year term on June 1st. As a Black mother who went through a traumatic pregnancy firsthand, I think I provided that necessary lived experience and could represent my community well. We need to ask, what community is Scott representing?
If you want to know how Texas is going to cover up the fact that their abortion ban kills women, this is how. They just appointed one of the biggest anti-abortion activists to their maternal mortality committee. This is the committee that tracks maternal deaths, that gets to decide what is counted as a maternal death. It's just shocking. And she's not just like, oh, she's an anti-abortion person. She is like the anti-abortion person. This is a woman, her name is Ingrid Skopp. She testifies for anti-abortion legislation. She writes like bullshit fake studies. 2 of them were just retracted recently, even though they like made their way all the way up to the Supreme Court. They were against mifepristone. She is a complete and total wackadoo. Just to give you a sense of who she is, this is a person that says 9 and 10-year-olds have reached sexual maturity and it's perfectly safe for them to give birth. She is someone who says that women do not need abortions to save their life. Instead, she wants them to be forced into C-sections or induced vaginal labor. She also doesn't want women with non-viable pregnancies, doomed pregnancies, to be able to get abortions. She says it's heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful. She also believes some stuff that's really, really dangerous as it pertains specifically to her appointment on this committee. She does not think abortion bans harm women. She does not think that they cause maternal mortality. So we know that she's not going to count those. She also wants what she calls abortion-related deaths to be counted in the maternal death rate. Does she count as an abortion-related death? Basically anything. Basically, if you've had an abortion at some point in your life and you die later for some reason, that's an abortion-related death. Like, she has said people who take their own lives, if they've had an abortion in the past, that's an abortion-related death that should be counted the maternal mortality rate. She wants to, I mean, it's just so totally absurd. She is going to skew the numbers in Texas deliberately, and that's why she's been appointed. By the way, I've been like banging the drum on this, raising the alarm for almost 2 years. Since Roe was overturned at the newsletter, I've been tracking the way that activists like her, anti-abortion groups, are trying to sow distrust in maternal mortality numbers, fabricate their own maternal mortality numbers that paint abortion as dangerous, even though we know it's not. It's just so completely ridiculous that this is happening. It's getting some attention, but not nearly enough. When the Associated Press wrote about it, knowing all of this absolutely wacky shit that she said and done, their headline wasn't, oh, extremist, appointed to board. Their headline was outspoken anti-abortion OBGYN appointed. This is how normalization happens.
And like I said, now we have Louisiana. Louisiana governor signs bill to classify some abortion pills as controlled substances into law. Louisiana became the first state to classify these pills as controlled substances, and possessing the pills without a prescription is a crime. Governor Jeff Landry, a Republican, reclassified these 2 drugs, a 2-step regimen used to terminate early pregnancies, as a Schedule 4 drug into law on Friday after it passed the state legislature earlier this week. The measure puts the drugs in the same category as opioids, depressants, and other drugs that can be addictive, making them harder to obtain. Under the law, pregnant women are exempted from prosecution, but other people who possess the pills without a valid prescription face jail time and fines. Ellie Schilling, an attorney in Louisiana who specializes in reproductive health law, told reporters that the bill will make it incredibly difficult to use the drugs for medically necessary purposes and will lead the government to monitoring pregnant women and doctors who prescribe the drugs. Now, y'all remember like last week or the week before, Katie Britt was talking about a registry for pregnant women, and many of us were like, alarm, alarm, no, no, no. They want to monitor pregnant women. This is the reason why women really have got to get out of these states. In a statement Thursday, President Biden called the legislation outrageous and said it's a direct result of Trump overturning Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump says that women should face some form of punishment for accessing reproductive health care. We're seeing that play out, his statement said. The bill's enactment comes as forced birthers and some abortion rights advocates await a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court on whether to curtail access to mifepristone. The court appeared poised to allow the drug to remain widely available. Last year, more than 60% of some abortions within the U.S. healthcare system were done through medication, according to Guttmacher Institute. Louisiana already bans both medication and surgical abortion, except to save the mother's life or because the pregnancy is medically futile. So that's where we are in Louisiana.
1.7 million women live in what's called a double desert, where they don't have access to abortion care and they don't have access to maternal health care. My name's Mel. I'm a medical student and I'm going to be applying to OBGYN residency in like 2 years. And this study came out that found that as current doctors are fleeing anti-abortion states, new upcoming doctors in training are avoiding those states as well, meaning the maternity healthcare crisis is just going to get worse. For students applying to residency in 2022 to 2023, 72% said the Dobbs decision influenced which programs they applied to. And of that 72%, 96 said they applied to programs in states that had fewer abortion restrictions, meaning they avoided states that had bans on abortion. 2/3 said the Dobbs decision influenced how they ranked programs, and 98% of those 2/3 said they ranked programs in states that are less restrictive higher. The applicants were forced to weigh the current laws and potential restrictions in providing abortion care in each state, because doctors, medical students do not want to live in a state where they cannot provide their patient the standard of care or the most evidence-based medicine.
I want to also say that Louisiana has a dearth of maternity care. People are running away from Louisiana. It would be terrible to get pregnant in these forced birther states that are running physicians out. The darker the color, the less maternity, or I'm sorry, labor and delivery services they have. So you guys see down here in these red states right here, that is where there is a dearth of labor and delivery services. So you stand in these red states and accidentally get pregnant, forcibly get pregnant, your life could be in jeopardy. You get pregnant on purpose because you are pro-life and think that some abortion doesn't harm you, you are still going to be in trouble because they are running physicians out of these states. 3/4 of Louisiana's rural hospitals don't offer labor and delivery services, according to a new report from the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform. Why it matters? Because Louisiana has one of the highest maternal mortality rates, according to the CDC, and it will probably only get worse. All right, y'all, jump in. Let me know what you think about all of this. And don't forget to like, comment, and share.